A look at violence interruption, and we talk the city of St. George. Roll it, Kirk. Well, if you're like me, last Friday you got that push notification on the WAFB app talking about what the Supreme Court had decided relating to the city of St. George. On a 4-3 vote, they said the city can indeed happen. Drew Morrill is the attorney and one of the organizers with the city of St. George. And before we talk with Drew, for those of you new to Baton Rouge and this story, let's take you down memory lane. Starting in 2013, when this really started after an effort to create a new school district failed. Organizers in this unincorporated part of East Baton Rouge Parish decided to file to incorporate, to create a new city. That takes us to the initial petition effort that was done in 2015. It fell 71 signatures short. In 2018, there was a second effort that was successful that led to a vote in 2019 where 54% of eligible voters said they did want to create the city. Of course, city and parish officials fought this effort, which brings us to last week when the Louisiana Supreme Court on a 4-3 vote said that St. George can indeed happen. So, Drew, this has been a long run, more than a decade's worth of work on your part and parts of the organizers, and we're not going to rehash everything that's been happening because we got a lot to get to in 2 segments. But I want to start with, why does this need to happen? Why do we need a new city?
Well, I mean, we looked at this effort back when we were told by Sharon Weston Broome when she was a legislator. She said, if you want a school district, you have to form a city. So what began as an impetus to create a better school system, our school system currently ranks near the bottom in a state ranked near dead last in education. We started looking at that city process, and what we found was gross mismanagement. We found a $1 billion budget where 2/3 of those dollars are tied up in pensions and bond debt. And we found that we were paying a considerable amount of taxes to East Baton Rouge Parish, but not getting a significant amount of those taxes back in services from the city parish.
Is this white flight?
No, white flight would be leaving the parish. And that's a false narrative created to cause divisiveness. Here's the reality. One, we didn't leave. We're still in East Baton Rouge Parish. We're staying here, our children are staying here, and our tax dollars are staying here. Number two, go back and look at the census from 2020. We're the fastest growing minority population in this parish or in St. George. So we're not leaving, we're staying, and we're building a better community, and all people can benefit from that. And that's what the population census is telling us. You
know, one of the criticisms have been, though, man, that the people involved in the organization of this it's not a very diverse group. What do you say to that?
I say they should have been around for the first petition drive where things were thrown at people, names were called, violence was threatened on a continuous basis, and ask if you or somebody, a person of color, would you want to undergo that? Would you want to submit to that kind of pressure and threats and taunts? No, and I think what you're going to see moving forward with the city of St. George is everyone, our neighbors, it's a very inclusive community. We're welcoming all people to come be a part of the process to build the city of St. George. We have a historic moment ahead of us. We get to create a city from scratch.
This is a quote from, a part of the quote from the local NAACP. And it says the city of St. George, the St. George plan poses significant risks to our education system, threatens the continuity of critical programs, and challenges community representation. The creation of a new municipality introduces considerable uncertainty around funding allocation for our schools, jeopardizing the cornerstone of our community's future education. What's your response to that? Because this started, as you mentioned earlier, about wanting another school district out there. And there are people who are saying this has an impact on children, particularly children of color.
2 things. One, it's another false narrative. One, the city of St. George, the creation of St. George, did not create a school district. That's a separate process with a potential separate boundary, a separate taxing mechanism, and a separate leadership group. So arguing about schools at this moment is not of consequence to us. Our sole focus at the moment is building our city. And number 2, I hate that a group that's had such a wonderful history of fighting for things like self-determination, self-governance, and the right to vote would dare make a statement about another group's doing the same thing, exercising our fundamental rights under the Constitution, while having a government official, 2 government officials, sue us to overturn our constitutionally protected rights.
Their position that this is detrimental to the more poor parts of the community because of the resources it takes away from the city government is one of the cases they're making. At less than a minute, we'll get you to start and we'll come back to that. But begin your response to that.
Well, Central's great evidence that a rising tide raises all ships. Their increase in population, their increase in revenue means additional tax revenue to East Baton Rouge Parish, which ultimately will contribute more money to funding these services. Our people are leaving in droves, and I mean the citizens of East Baton Rouge Parish, to other parishes. That cost us exponentially every single year in revenue that should have stayed in parish.
All right, we're going to come back and do another segment with Drew. Talk a bit about public works services. What about law enforcement and the newly formed city? And is he going to run for mayor? We'll ask him about that next. Stay right there. Still talking the city of St. George with Drew Murrell, who's the attorney and one of the leaders of the effort there. The Supreme Court last week decided this can indeed happen. There is going to be an appeal for rehearing. We heard about that earlier this week, and your thoughts on that?
I mean, waste of the taxpayers' time and money, just like this lawsuit's been. It's frivolous.
Not from their perspective.
Well, everything from their perspective.
You got to work with these folks, Drew. I mean,
I'll be honest, we're the ones that have tried. Most unprofessional meeting I've ever been in, as well as the other people in the room.
How so?
The last meeting, insulted by Mary Olive Pearson for the moment we all walked in, continuously, until we decided to get up and leave. And that was just to be a sit down and have a, hey, we won the election, how can we move forward?
What'd she accuse you of?
Oh, she just calls names. I mean, it's just the typical rhetoric from her and slamming paper on the table about suing us. And
do you expect the governor to be giving you the names of who the leadership will be in the near future?
Well, I certainly don't answer for Governor Landry, and it's in his purview to make these appointments at his leisure. There's no time delay. I would hope so in the next 30 days, so we can be in the process of moving forward with the interim mayor and city council and the St. George Transition District to start our city building process.
Are you going to be mayor?
Absolutely not. Idealists create governments, and I think I fall into the idealist category.
Right. Politicians
destroy them, so I'm going to stay an idealist.
What about Dwight Hudson? I'm going to get him in here to answer that question. What about
if
Dwight
that's
Hudson?
Dwight's purview, he's been a wonderful council member for the St. George area. He's been one of the few voices on that Metro Council that have stood up for us and our rights. If that was something he was thinking about, I mean.
So who's your favorite to be mayor?
Oh, I don't play politics and favorites. I just try to build the city. That's
okay.
Our
well, who's the mayor
sole
going to be?
focus, whoever Governor Landry appoints. Right now, its sole focus is on building the city. What a historic moment! You get to walk in if you live in the city of St. George, love us, hate us, or indifferent, and give us your ideas and your thoughts on how to build a city and move forward. How cool is that? You get to erase the mistakes of the past and move to the future.
You tapped around that one like Gregory Hines. Let's talk a little bit about the city now. How do you pay for public works?
Well, the great part is we've got at least $48.3 million in sales tax revenue.
So let's talk about that. There was a response by Jared Lorenz and Richardson, I guess maybe 3 years ago, that says your revenues were smaller in their purview than you, I think about $12 million less than you guys initially said. Have you done another deep dive into what numbers look like since that was so long ago?
Well, let's look at that report, and let's look at what the Louisiana Supreme Court said about that report. Number one, the stipulated revenue number from 2017 by both parties was $48.3 million. So the Richardson report estimate of our revenue was off to the point where their own party, their own employer told them it was wrong.
Right.
So number two, looking at what we expend in St. George, City of Baton Rouge could never prove what the expenses spent in St. George were. Testimony from—
What do you mean?
They can't tell you how much it costs to run St. George in the East Baton Rouge Parish budget. They've never tracked it. That's testimony from at trial. They have no idea. So anybody who's guesstimating at what our expenses would be from the Baton Rouge standpoint, this is why Richardson's report uses far-off cities and different numbers. It's fuzzy math to hide the truth.
Kirk, Alicia, could I have another minute in this segment because I want to talk about public safety. I know the plan had been similar to what's happening in Central to give more funds to the sheriff's office, who has the Klein Peter substation out in the area, so that they can further police the area. Is that still the plan? And if not, what is?
Oh, absolutely is the plan. We have a great sheriff's department in East Baton Rouge Parish that does a wonderful job protecting our citizens. Our time and our effort and resources are better served giving him or whoever the next sheriff would be additional resources for that protection. They're doing a great job. Why would we deviate from that?
Quickly here, is the city officially a thing now? And if so, what does that look like?
Well, to me, absolutely. As of last Friday, the Supreme Court has said definitively, if you read the ruling, there's no doubt in our mind that we're officially a city. Our job is to start moving forward that process, to bring people in, to create the zoning, the ordinances, the planning, all the city building process.
What's your website for people who may want? There it is on the screen. Tell people what the website is.
stgeorgelouisiana.com. You can also easily message us on Facebook.
Once there is more structure to where this is going to be, I do want you to come back and so we can kind of talk through what that looks like. We get a chance to have long form discussion with this so people can know what the deal is.
Absolutely.
How much time, Alyssa? I hear the bump music. That says we're getting out of here. All right, appreciate you, brother.
Always a pleasure.
Up next, let's talk about violence interruption, and we'll do that with some people at the Mega Bam next. You know, I like to talk about both ends of the public safety spectrum. We talk a lot about police officers and cameras and making arrests, but not often do we talk enough about investment in areas where circumstances create violent crime. Well, the city parish has an initiative called Safe, Hopeful, Healthy, and it not only has programming that deals with some of the disinvested communities, they deploy people who actually go out into these parts of East Baton Rouge Parish and engage with the community because they are the community. So I got a group here with me, first names only, Dana, Jazika, Sateria, Darius. They're all with Safe, Hopeful, Healthy, and work in the community. So Jazz and Sateria, I'll start with the both of you. Talk about the impact of the investment effort and what it is.
Yeah, so Safe, Hopeful, Healthy is a convener, a partner, a funder of community in order to do the efforts of community-based violence intervention. And so we convene individuals, organizations, people who live in affected neighborhoods who want to get involved, right? And so part of that the work that Safe, Hopeful, Healthy does is seed projects. And so the first project that we seeded was with Sateria, with Agile Planning Solutions, who runs the Baton Rouge Community Street Team that has credible messengers on the ground. So I'll let her share what that looks like.
Thanks. So yes, as Jazz stated, Safe, Hopeful, Healthy seeded and has continued to provide funding to Agile Planning Solutions in regards to our Baton Rouge Community Street Team, as well as Safe Passage and other programs. We do have boots on the ground folks that respond to everything from homicides. They canvass our communities.
What do they do? Like, when you boots, explain what their services or what they're providing when they go out.
So when they are responding to, say, a homicide scene, they are providing support to families, to community members, to people that have been affected by gun violence. Also, if someone was shot but maybe not deceased, they also provide services, resources, and such to those folks as well. We also look for opportunities for future interventions and mediations to stop that cycle of violence from occurring.
Dana, when we talk a lot about grabbing these young people, particularly these young men who kind of don't know where they're going and end up in places they shouldn't be because of how the journey starts, talk me through the importance of helping these young people find their purpose.
Well, if we don't do it, then what? You know, our communities are disinvested, as you said, but if someone pours in life into them, it's impactful in a great way.
What does that look like when you say pour life into them?
Speak positive things in them. They see a lot of negative already. Right. You know, the challenges that young black men face, no other race has that. You know, so education, job training, just getting them to see a different perspective on life.
So, you know, it's not that hard to figure out.
Right.
If you invest in these young people, and you're talking about communities. I took a group of business people through North Baton Rouge last week, and they got a chance to see in the 70805 zip code, and that's not the only area where this stuff exists.
Right.
The absence of places to go for recreation, the absence of grocery stores, you know, commercial shopping scenes, whatever. So during the summer, when it's 1 billion degrees outside, and some houses that don't have working ACs, and not much food in the fridge, and you know, for anyone who says, well, it's their fault, you got to, okay. we have the crime rates we have because you don't invest where investment
That's
is
right.
required. Darius, you and I chatted a little bit about this, and I had Big Baby in here, Big, last week, who stole the whole show last week. And we talked about having guys who can speak to these young people, get to them, and keep them from making bad choices. Tell me about that.
Well, basically where I work from, I work from the space of where I come from. I'm a dropout, high school dropout, but I went and got my GED. So in that, when we working at the schools, it's a lot of kids we running across that's where they at. They on the verge of dropping out of school. So with me, I could tell them, man, I went and got my GED.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And this is how I did it. I took these steps, I had to catch the city bus, I had to, you know what I mean? There's a couple of things I had to sacrifice in order to get myself to where I wanted to get to. And then once I got there, I used my mind to invest myself and to go and do something greater with myself. Because the path we was going, it was going left. So I chose to go right. And I went and got my welding degree, and I showed them all that when I'm at the school, letting them know, bro, I did all the same stuff that you're trying to do and getting into. I pretty much did the same thing. Now some of them a little bit gone off the ledge a little bit further, but those kids could be saved and reeled back in with the right resources, like music and things that's recreational for them to want to do and not nothing that nobody pushing on them.
I want to come back and when we come back from commercial break, I'm going to pick it up right there. Like he's talking about the specific things that we can do. That's one of the reasons we want that Inspiration Center in Howell Park, because it has everything he talked about on the inside of it. So you see who we're talking with this week, talking about interrupting violence from the perspective of investment. We'll do more on that next. So if you see this Summer of Hope website, it's chock full of information about what Safe, Hopeful, Healthy is doing here in Baton Rouge. Y'all can see that on the monitor there. You can go to the website summerofhopebr.com. Summerofhopebr.com. And then there is the Safe, Hopeful, Healthy website that has information on the overall initiative that you can learn about here. And we went into commercial break talking about the kinds of investments that need to be made in these young people, Darius, and you talked about academics and athletics and the arts and all of these things. Pick that up right there, and then tell me why you believe those investments turn a young person from problem to productive.
'Cause it worked for myself.
Okay.
I'm the walking experiment. I've experimented on myself. So by me engaging myself in music, no, I might not have got famous and big like I wanted to, but it kept me active and engaged in something that was positive and something that kept me out the way. Going to the studio rather than hanging out here with him, nah, I'm gonna go to the studio. We're gonna make music, let's put out a little mixtape, let's go stand on the corner and let's sell our CDs.
Yeah.
Let's learn some people skills.
Yeah.
So I learned people skills by doing that. And then with the GED, like these kids right now, they got a program called Youth Build. If they say they dropped out of school and they want to go to Youth Build will pay them like a little stipend, $150 every 2 weeks for them to go there, get their GED, even pick up a trade at the same time while you're getting your GED. So that's a two-pronged program that'll help a kid who's 16, might got a baby, and got responsibilities, because these kids have responsibilities.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some of them taking care of the house.
Yeah.
So we got to factor that in whenever we, dealing with them.
Dana, not just the young people, the parents in the house, and no one has a how-to book when you have a child, no matter whether you are affluent or living in a disinvested community. What about the parents? What resources or direction can you give to some of these parents, largely single mothers or grandmothers, who are raising these young people?
Well, we have a lot of wraparound services that we connect people to. There's parenting classes that they have, also job training. Some of them may not have finished school. We offer, connections with certain institutions like Baton Rouge Community College, Employ BR, where there's programs to, educate them.
Jazz, do you think people know enough about what's available to them?
No, I mean that's.
How do we fix that?
I think it has to be a multi-pronged approach to how we address that. First, communities got to get engaged, right? They need to show up in some ways, in some form or fashion, to learn the information. But then also institutions or programs such as yourself have to be willing to also engage and share out that information, because Baton Rouge does not have like a lack of resources. No. We have a ton of
I say that all the
resources
time.
in this city, but it's about the collaboration and working together with the resources. That's always been our challenge.
We have a problem with that.
Yeah.
People being able to break down silos and actually work together.
Absolutely.
Soteria, we were in that conversation last week, and you had all these different groups all there to talk about, and Courtney Scott with the mayor's office
Yep.
made reference to it. If we're willing, to Jazz's point, get in a room and not make it about me and make it about the issue, we can get so much done, right?
Absolutely. One of the things you just asked was, how do we change the public not knowing what resources are out there? I agree with Jay, we have to have engagement from the community, but we also have to be willing to bring those resources and meet the people where they are.
100%.
And a lot of times there are barriers that are in place, such as transportation, that prevents them from being able to connect. So we need to start utilizing more spaces within our communities to bring those things there. For instance, like the center, that would be a great place for people to have a hub, or using some of these abandoned buildings that we have sitting. We have schools and all these things that are not being utilized. We can turn those into hubs in our community.
Faith is trying hard not to get caught on camera. There's like a million cameras there. I'm sure you got caught. I got less than a minute, brother. Tell me what this poster is about.
Yeah, that post right there is a single called Guns Down that we all kind of collectively did together. We did a video for it and everything. My artist name is Knowledge Tyson. If anybody want to download the single called Guns Down, that's something that I'm pushing while I'm out in the community, engaging with these kids to let them know that it is possible for us to get out here and push another narrative, a more positive narrative about what's going on in our community.
Well,
That's it.
I appreciate the work y'all do, and you always have a space here to come and talk about it. And we have to get away from starting programs for kids when you don't want to deal with the quote-unquote bad
Come on.
kids.
Come on. Yeah.
That defeats the
Real,
purpose
yes,
of it.
real.
So I appreciate y'all again. summerofhopebr.com
Yes.
and safehopefulhealthybr.com.
Yeah, and can I say one more thing quick?
Quickly.
So we have a grant process right now that's happening where people can apply for many grants to
10 seconds,
do work. summerofhopebr.com/community fund.
See y'all next week. Carolyn Coleman will be here. Y'all have a good weekend.